I'm Jovita, 32 years old, and I thought I understood what betrayal felt like until my husband left me off our luxury Santorini trip. He told me I wouldn't enjoy it, that I should stay home and rest. But what I discovered the day he left with someone else transformed my entire year in ways he never saw coming. Before we dive in, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe, because what happened next will make you rethink everything you know about turning pain into power. 6 years. That's how long Derek and I had been married when everything fell apart. We met at a boutique advertising agency in Seattle, back when the city still felt full of possibilities, and our careers were just taking off. I was a senior copywriter with dreams of making it to creative director someday. Derek was already there leading the creative team with this confident energy that drew everyone in, including me. Those early years felt like something out of a romance novel. We'd spend evenings cooking together in our tiny apartment in Capitol Hill, experimenting with recipes we found online and laughing when things inevitably went wrong. Weekends meant hiking trails in the Cascade Mountains, where we'd pack sandwiches and thermoses of coffee, spending hours just talking about everything and nothing. We'd plan our future during those hikes, discussing the house we'd buy, the trips we'd take, maybe kids someday. Eventually, we saved enough for a townhouse in Ballard, a charming place with a view of the lake, and a small backyard where Derek insisted on planting tomatoes every spring. He took such pride in that garden, showing me each new sprout, like it was a miracle. I loved watching him out there on Sunday mornings, coffee in hand, checking on his plants with this peaceful expression I rarely saw during the work week. Life felt secure, stable. We had our routines, our inside jokes, our shared dreams. I trusted Derek completely, the kind of bone-deep trust you only give to someone you plan to spend forever with. Looking back now, I realize how dangerous that kind of blind faith can be. It was a cold evening in February, 8 months before everything exploded, when the idea first came up. We were curled up on our grey sectional sofa, a bottle of Merlot between us, scrolling through Instagram in that mindless way you do when you're too tired for real conversation, but not ready for sleep. Derek paused on a photo of Santorini, one of those impossibly beautiful shots of white buildings, cascading down cliffs, blue-domed churches, against an even bluer sky and the sun setting over the Aegean Sea in shades of orange and pink that didn't seem real. He turned the phone toward me. We should go there for our anniversary in October. My heart jumped. Are you serious? Why not? We work hard. We deserve something special. That night, we didn't go to bed until past 2 in the morning. We researched hotels, scrolling through dozens of options before settling on a 5-star resort that looked like it was carved into the cliffside itself. The photos showed an infinity pool that seemed to pour directly into the sea suites, with private terraces and outdoor jacuzzis, restaurants where you could watch the sunset while dining on fresh seafood and local wine. I remember the moment we clicked the booking confirmation button. Derek raised his wine glass. To Santorini. To us. To us, I echoed, clinking my glass against his. The months that followed became a countdown. I started a Pinterest board filled with outfit ideas, white linen dresses and flowing skirts and strappy sandals. I researched restaurants, bookmarking the ones with the best reviews, the most romantic settings. I found a local tour company that offered private sailing trips to the volcanic islands, another that specialized in wine tasting tours through the island's vineyards. I even joined a gym, determined to feel confident in a bikini by the pool. 3 mornings a week, I'd drag myself out of bed at 6 to make it to the early class before work. Derek would tease me about it sometimes, grinning over his coffee as I rushed around looking for my yoga pants. You're more excited about the wardrobe than the actual trip, aren't you? Can you blame me? I'd laugh back. This is our dream vacation. I want everything to be perfect. He seemed excited too, at least at first. He suggested we rent a scooter to explore the island cruise along those winding coastal roads we'd seen in photos. I countered with the idea of renting an ATV, something a little more adventurous. We debated the merits of staying in Oya versus Fira, whether we should book excursions in advance or just be spontaneous. Those conversations became part of our daily rhythm. Over breakfast, Derek might mention an article he'd read about the best time to photograph the sunset. During dinner, I'd bring up whether we should try that restaurant built into a cave, or the one with the Michelin star chef. Before sleep, we'd lie in bed and talk about which museums we wanted to visit, whether we had time to take a day trip to other islands. The anticipation was delicious. This trip felt like more than just a vacation. It was a chance to reconnect after a year where work had consumed us both. The agency had been pushing for bigger clients, longer hours. Derek often stayed late at the office, and I'd find myself eating dinner alone, reheating whatever leftovers we had while responding to emails on my phone. We were living together but barely seeing each other, passing like ships in our own home. Santorini would change that, I thought. 10 days of nothing but each other, beautiful scenery, good food, and the kind of deep conversations we used to have before life got so busy. 2 weeks before our departure date, I laid out everything on our bed. New sundresses still with tags attached, the wide-brimmed hat I'd ordered online, a new camera I'd splurged on to capture every moment, sunscreen aloe vera, the travel adapter for European outlets. I made lists and checked them twice, determined not to forget anything. Derek walked in while I was organising everything into piles. He leaned against the doorframe, watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. I thought maybe he was amused by my type A personality, my need to plan every detail. I smiled at him. 2 weeks. Can you believe it's finally almost here? Yeah, he said quietly, almost here. That night, we went shopping together at the outdoor mall near our house. I helped Derek pick out linen shirts in soft blues and whites, lightweight shorts, new sunglasses. He tried everything on, and I gave my approval, imagining how handsome he'd look against the Santorini backdrop. We grabbed gelato afterward, walking through the warm evening, and for a moment, everything felt right again. Back home, we watched YouTube videos of people's Santorini travel vlogs curled up together on the couch, Derek's arm around my shoulders, my head resting against his chest. 2 more weeks, babe, he murmured into my hair. I can't wait. I tilted my head up to kiss him, feeling more content than I had in months. Neither of us could have known that in 14 days everything would shatter. Looking back, I can pinpoint the exact moment things started to shift, though I didn't recognize it at the time. It was a Monday evening, exactly 7 days before our flight. I came home from work to find Derek already there, which was unusual. He typically worked late on Mondays, often not arriving home until 8 or 9. He was sitting at the kitchen table with his laptop still in his work clothes, tie loosened around his neck. He barely looked up when I walked in. Hey, I said, setting my bag down. You're home early. Everything okay? Yeah, just tired. Lots going on at work. I moved behind him, placing my hands on his shoulders, feeling the tension there. Want to talk about it? Not really. He closed his laptop a bit too quickly, and I caught a glimpse of his email inbox before the screen went dark. I tried not to read too much into it. Derek had always been private about work stress, preferring to decompress on his own rather than unload on me. I respected that boundary usually, but something felt different this time. Over dinner, I brought up our resort confirmation, mentioning that I'd received an email reminder about our check-in process. Derek nodded, but didn't engage the way he normally would. His responses were brief, distracted. He kept glancing at his phone. Are you sure everything's all right? I asked, setting down my fork. I'm fine, Jovita. Just a lot on my mind. Anything I can help with, no. It's work stuff. You wouldn't understand. The comment stung more than it should have. I worked at the same agency, understood the pressures and deadlines as well as anyone. But I let it go, telling myself he was just stressed and would snap out of it once we got on that plane to Greece. That night, Derek worked on his laptop until well past midnight. I fell asleep to the sound of his fingers on the keyboard, the blue glow of the screen illuminating our bedroom. By Wednesday, 5 days before departure, his distance had become impossible to ignore. He barely spoke during meals. When I tried to discuss our itinerary, asking if we should book that wine tour for our second day on the island, he waved his hand dismissively. Yeah, whatever you think is good. The enthusiasm that had coloured his voice for months was gone, replaced by this hollow indifference. I felt my excitement beginning to curdle into anxiety. Thursday morning, I tried a different approach. I woke up early and made his favourite breakfast scrambled eggs with smoked salmon and capers, fresh squeezed orange juice, the good coffee from the French press. I set the table nicely, even put out cloth napkins. Derek came downstairs, saw the spread, and something flickered across his face. Guilt, maybe. Or was it frustration? He sat down, thanked me quietly, but ate quickly, still glued to his phone. Derek, I said finally. Are you okay? You seem really off lately. He set down his fork, met my eyes for the first time in days. I'm fine, Jovita, just work stuff, you know how it is. But I didn't know. This felt like more than work stress. This felt personal. Are you having second thoughts about the trip? The question hung between us. For a moment, I thought he might tell me the truth, whatever it was. Instead, he shook his head. No second thoughts. I'm just busy trying to wrap things up before we leave. It was a reasonable explanation. I wanted to believe it. So I did, pushing down the uneasy feeling in my gut. That night, Derek went to bed early without saying goodnight. I lay awake beside him, listening to his breathing, feeling the inches of space between us like a chasm. Friday arrived 3 days before we were supposed to fly out. I left work early to run last-minute errands, picking up travel-sized toiletries, a new beach bag, some books for the plane. When I got home, Derek's car was already in the driveway. I found him in our bedroom staring at his suitcase with this strange expression. Starting to pack, I asked brightly, trying to inject some enthusiasm into the atmosphere. Yeah, something like that. I sat on the edge of the bed, watching him fold a shirt with meticulous care. We should probably talk about what we're doing each day. I made a rough itinerary, but wanted your input. Sure. Later, though, I need to finish some work emails. He grabbed his laptop and disappeared into his home office, closing the door behind him. I sat there alone, surrounded by my carefully organised piles of vacation clothes, and felt tears prick my eyes. This wasn't how the days before our dream trip were supposed to feel. That evening I called Harper, my best friend since college. She lived across the country now, working as an environmental lawyer in Boston, but we still talked regularly. Something's wrong, I told her, curled up in the corner of our couch. Derek's been so distant this whole week. Cold feet about the trip, maybe. But it feels bigger than that. He won't talk to me. He barely looks at me. Harper was quiet for a moment. Have you asked him directly what's going on? I've tried. He just says it's work stress. Do you believe him? I don't know, I admitted. I want to. Trust your gut, Jovita. It's usually right about these things. After we hung up, I sat in the gathering darkness, not bothering to turn on the lights. Trust your gut. But my gut was telling me things I didn't want to hear. Saturday morning, Derek announced he was going grocery shopping. He left early and returned hours later with 2 bags of essentials that could have taken 30 minutes to buy. Where had he been? Who had he seen? Questions I didn't ask because I was afraid of the answers. That night, I decided to try one more time. I cooked his favourite meal, grilled salmon with roasted asparagus and garlic mashed potatoes. I opened a nice bottle of wine, lit candles on the dining table, put on soft music in the background. Derek walked into the dining room and stopped short, taking in the scene. What's all this? I wanted to do. Something nice, I said, pulling out his chair. We haven't had a proper dinner together in days. He sat down slowly, his discomfort obvious. We ate in awkward silence for several minutes before I couldn't take it anymore. Derek, we need to talk. Something's wrong, and I want to know what it is. He set down his fork, stared at his plate for a long moment. When he finally looked up, his face was carefully blank. I've been thinking about the trip. My heart sank. Okay, I don't think you should go. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? What do you mean I shouldn't go? I mean, I think I should go alone. This is our trip, I said, my voice rising. We planned this together. We've been planning it for 8 months. I know, but I've been thinking about it, and I really believe you wouldn't enjoy it. Wouldn't enjoy it? Why would you say that? You've been so stressed with work lately. You're exhausted. You need rest at home, not a busy vacation. The logic made no sense. That's exactly why I need this trip. To get away, to relax, to spend time with you. Derek shook his head. Trust me, Jovita, it's better this way. I'll go take lots of photos, and we can plan something else later. Maybe a long weekend, somewhere closer. Less stressful. I stared at him, unable to process what I was hearing. You're uninviting me from our anniversary trip. I'm not uninviting you. I'm just saying I think you'd be happier staying home. That doesn't make any sense, I said, my voice shaking now. None of this makes sense. He stood up abruptly. I've already changed the booking to single occupancy. The decision's made. The decision's made. I stood up too, anger flooding through me now. You made a decision about our trip without even discussing it with me. I'm discussing it now. No, you're informing me that's different. Derek grabbed his wine glass, drained it, set it down hard on the table. I need some air. He walked out, leaving me standing there among the candles and the nice dinner and the wreckage of what I'd thought was my marriage. I heard the front door close, then his car starting pulling out of the driveway. I sank back into my chair and let myself cry. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Derek's words on repeat. You wouldn't enjoy it. Single occupancy. The decision's made. Each phrase felt like another small knife. Derek came home around 2 in the morning. I heard him creep upstairs, use the bathroom slide into bed on his side. The distance between us felt like miles. Saturday morning, I waited until he was in the shower before grabbing his laptop from his nightstand. My hands shook as I opened it. I'd never snooped before, never felt the need. Our marriage had been built on trust, but trust was clearly a one-way street. His email was still logged in. I scrolled through his inbox, finding nothing unusual at first. Work emails, promotional messages, confirmations for household bills. Then I noticed a folder labelled Santorini. My heart pounding, I clicked it. There were the confirmations I expected, the hotel booking, the flight reservations. But as I scrolled down, I found an email from 3 days ago from the resort. Dear Mr. Thompson, we've updated the guest name for your reservation as requested. Ms. Amanda Cho will be joining you in the deluxe suite. We look forward to welcoming you both to our property. Ms. Amanda Cho will be joining you. The words blurred as my eyes filled with tears. He wasn't going alone. He was taking someone else, a woman named Amanda Cho. I heard the shower turn off. Quickly, I closed the laptop, set it back where I'd found it, and fled downstairs. I stood in the kitchen, gripping the counter, trying to breathe normally. Amanda Cho. Who was she? A colleague, a friend, something more. I spent the rest of Saturday in a fog of shock and pain, going through the motions while my mind raced. Derek left that afternoon saying he had errands to run. More likely, he was with her, with Amanda. Sunday arrived the day before Derek's flight, our flight, as it was supposed to be. I watched him pack his suitcase methodically, folding the clothes we'd bought together, the linen shirts I'd helped him pick out. Each item felt like a betrayal. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom, arms crossed. Who's Amanda Cho? Derek froze mid-fold, a pair of shorts in his hands. His face went pale. How do you know that name? I saw the email. You changed the reservation. You're taking her instead of me. He set down the shorts, slowly turned to face me. It's not what you think. Then what is it? I asked, my voice deadly calm. Explain to me why you're taking another woman on our anniversary trip. Amanda is a colleague. We have a work project we need to discuss. A work project? I laughed a bitter sound. In Santorini, in a romantic suite with a jacuzzi and an ocean view. You're overreacting. Am I? You lied to me, Derek. You pushed me out of our trip so you could take her instead. How is that an overreaction? It's complicated. Uncomplicate it then. Tell me the truth. Are you having an affair? No, he said, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. We're just friends. She's going through a rough patch, needed to get away. So you decided to use our trip, our money, our plans to comfort her. I knew you wouldn't understand. You're right, I said, my voice breaking. I don't understand how the man I married could betray me like this. Derek turned back to his suitcase. I'm still going. The tickets are non-refundable. Of course you are, I whispered. He continued packing as if I wasn't even there. I left the room unable to watch anymore and locked myself in the bathroom. I ran the water so he wouldn't hear me cry. Monday morning came too soon. Derek's alarm went off at 5. I'd been awake for hours staring at the ceiling in the pre-dawn darkness. I listened to him move around the bedroom, getting dressed, checking his bags one final time. He came over to my side of the bed. I kept my eyes closed, pretending to sleep. Jovita, he said softly, I'll be back in 10 days. I didn't respond, didn't move. I heard him sigh, then his footsteps retreating, the bedroom door closing, his suitcase wheels on the stairs, the front door opening and shutting, the car engine starting, pulling out of the driveway, fading into the distance. Only then did I open my eyes and let the tears fall. The first day alone was the worst. I called in sick to work, something I rarely did, but I couldn't imagine sitting at my desk and pretending everything was fine. Harper called around noon, her voice tight with concern when I told her what had happened. He actually left, I confirmed, my voice hollow. That absolute bastard. Jovita, I'm so sorry. Do you want me to fly out there? I can catch a red-eye tonight. You're in the middle of that big environmental case. I'll be okay. But I wasn't okay. I was shattered. I spent that day wandering through our townhouse like a ghost, picking up reminders of the life I'd thought we had. The coffee mug Derek had used that morning, still in the sink with a ring of dried coffee at the bottom. The tomato plants in the backyard he'd been so proud of. The framed photo on the mantel from our wedding, both of us laughing, looking so young and hopeful. That evening my phone buzzed. A text from Derek, landed safely. Hotel is beautiful. No apology, no acknowledgement of what he'd done. Just a casual update as if this were any normal trip. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened Instagram, something I'd been avoiding all day. Derek had posted a story from the airport earlier, a photo of his boarding pass with the caption, "Adventure awaits." The comments were full of friends saying, "Have fun and enjoy," and safe travels, none of them knowing the truth. I wanted to comment to expose him, to tell everyone what kind of man he really was. But I didn't. Some part of me still hoped this was all a terrible misunderstanding. Tuesday passed in a similar haze. I forced myself to eat, though everything tasted like cardboard. Harper called twice. My mum called once, but I let it go to voicemail. I couldn't explain this to her yet, couldn't say the words out loud. Wednesday afternoon, I finally opened my laptop. I'd been putting it off, afraid of what I might find, but I needed to know. I logged into Facebook, something I rarely did anymore, and searched for Derek's profile. There it was, a new album posted just hours ago, Santorini Day 2. My hands trembled as I clicked it. The first photo showed Derek at a restaurant table, the sunset behind him, painting the sky in those impossible oranges and pinks I'd dreamed about. He was smiling, relaxed, holding a glass of white wine. The second photo made my breath catch. Derek and Amanda standing together on a terrace, the famous Santorini caldera stretching out behind them. She was beautiful, I noticed, with a sick feeling. Long dark hair, a white sundress, eerily similar to one I'd bought for this trip, her hand resting on Derek's arm. I scrolled to the caption. Amanda had written it, not Derek. Sometimes the best trips are the unexpected ones. Thank you, Derek, for this magical experience, followed by a red heart emoji. The comments rolled in beneath it. You two look so happy together. Finally, Derek found someone who appreciates him. Relationship goals. When's the wedding? When's the wedding? People thought they were a couple. Derek hadn't corrected them, hadn't clarified. He was letting everyone believe he was on a romantic getaway with this woman, not caring that his actual wife was at home destroyed. I took screenshots of everything, every photo, every comment, every heart emoji, evidence of public humiliation added to private betrayal. My phone rang. Harper. I answered, and before she could even say hello, I was sobbing. I saw the photos, she said quietly. Oh, Jovita, everyone thinks they're together. He's not even trying to hide it. He doesn't care that people know. He's a coward and a fool, Harper said, her voice fierce. But listen to me, you cannot let this break you. You're stronger than this. I don't feel strong, I know, but you are. And when you're ready, you're going to show him exactly how strong. Her words stayed with me after we hung up. You're going to show him exactly how strong. I looked around our townhouse at the life Derek and I had built together, and something shifted inside me. The grief was still there, raw and aching, but underneath it, a spark of something else began to glow. Anger, not the hot, explosive kind, but something colder, sharper, more focused. Derek had underestimated me. He thought I'd sit at home and cry, waiting for him to come back so we could have some tearful conversation where he'd make excuses and I'd eventually forgive him. But I wasn't going to do that. I opened my laptop again, but this time I wasn't looking at Facebook. I was looking at our joint bank account. Derek had spent $8,000 on this trip, our money. Half of it mine. I transferred exactly half of the account balance into my personal savings, $4,237. It was my right, my money from my job, my contributions to our shared life. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I Googled divorce lawyers in Seattle. The first lawyer I contacted was through a referral from Harper. Her name was Patricia Nguyen, and she had a reputation for being tough but fair. We spoke on the phone Thursday morning while Derek was probably enjoying breakfast with Amanda, overlooking the Aegean Sea. Based on what you've told me, you have a strong case, Patricia said, her voice calm and professional. Infidelity, financial deception, emotional abandonment. Washington is a no-fault divorce state, but these factors can influence asset division. I want to file, I said, but I want to do it smart. Smart means documentation, emails, text messages, bank statements, social media posts. Gather everything, make copies, store them somewhere he can't access. I'm already doing that. Good. The more prepared you are, the better position you'll be in. After we hung up, I spent the next hour organizing everything into a folder on my laptop. The email about Amanda being added to the reservation, screenshots of the Facebook photos, bank statements showing the $8,000 charge, text messages from the past 2 weeks showing Derek's growing distance. I saved it all to a cloud account Derek didn't know about. Then I made a second backup on a flash drive that I hid in my desk at work. Patricia was right. Being smart meant being prepared, but gathering evidence was only part of it. I realized that if I was really going to move forward, I needed to think about my own life, my own future. A future without Derek. Friday morning, I woke up early and went to the gym for the first time in 2 weeks. I pushed myself hard on the treadmill running until my legs burned and my lungs ached. The physical pain was a relief, something concrete I could control when everything else felt chaotic. In the shower afterward, I made a decision. I'd been holding back at work for years, turning down opportunities, because Derek had wanted me to stay in my current role. He'd said it was because my job had less travel, more stable hours, better for our life together. Now I saw it differently. He'd wanted me to stay small so he could stay big. That afternoon, I emailed my boss, Jordan. I'd like to discuss the senior creative director position that opened up last month. Jordan responded within an hour. I thought you weren't interested in that role. I've reconsidered, I wrote back. I'm ready for new challenges. We scheduled a meeting for the following Monday after Derek would be back from Santorini. Perfect timing. Saturday, I did something else I'd been putting off. I called a real estate agent about getting our townhouse appraised. If Derek and I were heading for divorce, we'd need to know what the property was worth. The agent, a friendly woman named Carol, came by that afternoon. She walked through each room taking notes, asking questions about recent upgrades and repairs. Beautiful place, she said as we finished the tour. In this market, you'd have no problem selling if that's what you decide. It might be, I told her. After she left, I stood in the living room looking at the space Derek and I had turned into a home, the grey sectional we'd picked out together, the bookshelf full of novels we'd both read and discussed, the view of the lake we'd fallen in love with the first time we saw the property. It hurt to imagine leaving it. But it hurt more to imagine staying surrounded by memories of a marriage that had been built on lies. Sunday evening, I met with Patricia in person. She was in her 50s with sharp eyes and an efficient manner that I found comforting. We sat in her downtown office as the sun set over Elliott Bay, going over the details of what a divorce would look like. Since you don't have children, the process will be more straightforward, she explained. We'll need to divide assets, which includes the house cars, retirement accounts, and any other joint property. The house was purchased with money from my inheritance, I said. My grandmother left me $50,000 and I used it for the down payment. Patricia made a note. That could work in your favor. In Washington, gifts and inheritances are typically considered separate property, not community property. We spent 2 hours going over everything. By the time I left, I had divorce papers ready to be filed. All they needed was Derek's signature, or his refusal, which would lead to a court battle. Either way, I was prepared. Monday arrived. Derek's flight was scheduled to land at 7 in the evening. I took the day off work, using the time to pack his belongings. Every shirt, every pair of shoes, every book and gadget and piece of his life went into suitcases and boxes. I was methodical about it, almost mechanical. This was easier if I didn't think too hard, didn't let myself feel too much. By 4 in the afternoon, everything Derek owned was packed and waiting by the front door. I called a locksmith and had our locks changed, a surprisingly quick process that cost $200. Money well spent. At 6, I ordered Thai food delivery, eating pad Thai straight from the container while sitting on the floor of our bedroom. I'd moved all the furniture around, taken down the photos of us, replaced them with prints I'd bought that afternoon from a home goods store. Abstract art in blues and greens that reminded me of the ocean. This was my room now, my house, my life. At 7:30, I heard a car pull into the driveway. My heart started racing despite my attempts to stay calm. I went downstairs, positioned myself near the front door, and waited. The key turned in the lock, or tried to. I heard Derek's confusion, the key scraping against the new lock that wouldn't accept it. Then, knocking, Jovita, the door's not working. I took a deep breath and opened it. Derek stood on the porch tan from 10 days in the Greek sun, his suitcase beside him. He looked tired, but relaxed, the expression of someone who'd just had a wonderful vacation. That expression changed when he saw my face. "You changed the locks," he said. "I did. Your things are here." I gestured to the pile of luggage and boxes behind me. Derek stared at them, then at me, confusion turning to alarm. "What's going on?" I handed him the manila envelope I'd been holding. "Divorce papers. I suggest you read them carefully before signing. Divorce Jovita. We can talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. You made your choice when you took Amanda to Santorini. It wasn't like that. She and I are just friends." "The Facebook photos say otherwise," I said calmly. "But it doesn't matter anymore what you and Amanda are or aren't. What matters is that you and I are done." Derek tried to step forward. "Please let me come in. Let me explain." I blocked the doorway. "You don't live here anymore. I've contacted a lawyer. You can sign the papers voluntarily, or we can do this through the courts. Your choice." The colour drained from his face as reality set in. "Where am I supposed to go?" "That's not my problem," I said, and I meant it. "Maybe Amanda can help you." "Jovita, please. I'm sorry, Derek, but not sorry enough to let you keep hurting me." I stepped back and closed the door, turning the new deadbolt with a satisfying click. I heard him standing there for a long moment, then the sound of him loading his things into his car, making multiple trips. Finally, his car started, drove away. I leaned against the door and let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. It was done. I'd taken back control of my life. The first week after I shut Derek out of the house was strange. The townhouse felt simultaneously too empty and exactly right. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, reaching for someone who wasn't there before remembering why. Harper flew out to stay with me that following weekend, taking emergency time off from her case. She arrived Friday evening with 2 bottles of wine, a stack of rom-coms, and a fierce hug that made me cry all over again. You did the right thing, she told me for the 100th time as we sat on my newly rearranged couch. I know it doesn't feel like it yet, but you did. I hope so, I whispered. Saturday morning, Jordan called my cell. Jovita, I know you're dealing with personal stuff, but I wanted to tell you in person. The senior creative director position is yours if you want it. I sat up straighter. Seriously, your ideas in our meeting were exactly what this agency needs. Fresh perspective, innovative thinking, plus you've earned this. You've been underutilized for too long. When Harper heard the news, she actually whooped. See, this is what happens when you stop making yourself small for someone who didn't deserve you. The promotion came with a 35% raise and my own team of 4 copywriters and designers. It also meant more responsibility, longer hours, sometimes occasional travel. All things Derek had discouraged me from pursuing. Now those things felt like freedom. I accepted the position on Monday and started the following week. Diving into work became my therapy. I stayed late perfecting presentations, mentoring my new team, pitching ideas I'd kept bottled up for years. My colleagues noticed the change in me. You seem different, one of them said. More confident. I'm finally allowed to be, I thought, but didn't say. 2 weeks after I'd served Derek the papers, Patricia called with an update. He signed them. No contest. Relief flooded through me. So, it's done. Still needs to go through the court system, but yes, with both parties in agreement and no children involved, it should be finalised in about 60 days. 60 days until I was legally free. The divorce moved forward smoothly, surprisingly so. Derek's lawyer contacted Patricia about asset division because I could prove the down payment came from my inheritance and because I'd been making the majority of the mortgage payments for the past 3 years. The court ruled the house was primarily mine. Derek received a small payout for his equity contribution, but I got to keep the townhouse. The cars were simple. We each kept our own. Retirement accounts were split based on contributions. Everything neat and clean. 3 months after Derek left for Santorini, our divorce was finalised. I was 32 years old and single again, a status I hadn't held since my mid-20s. It should have felt devastating. Instead, it felt like possibility. I started doing all the things Derek had quietly discouraged over the years. I enrolled in a pottery class at a local studio. Something I'd wanted to try, but he'd dismissed as a waste of time. Turns out I loved it, the meditative quality of shaping clay, creating something beautiful from nothing. I joined a hiking group that did weekend trips throughout the Pacific Northwest, made new friends who didn't know me as Derek's wife, just as Jovita. We'd pile into cars early Saturday mornings, drive to trailheads, spend the day climbing mountains and laughing and sharing stories. I redecorated the entire townhouse in my style, minimalist and clean, lots of plants, natural light. I painted the bedroom a soft sage green, bought new bedding in crisp white linen, hung photographs I'd taken myself on the walls. This space became mine in a way it never had been before. 4 months after the divorce, I did something I never would have considered when I was married. I booked a solo trip to Iceland. Harper thought I was crazy. You're going alone for 10 days. Why not? I can do whatever I want, see whatever I want on my own schedule. The trip was transformative. I stayed in Reykjavik, rented a car, drove the ring road, stopped wherever something caught my eye. I hiked to waterfalls, soaked in hot springs, watched the northern lights dance across the Arctic sky in shades of green and purple that photographs couldn't capture. One night, sitting alone in a geothermal pool under the stars, I realized I was completely perfectly happy. Not happy despite being alone, but happy because I was alone. Free to make my own choices, follow my own path, be entirely myself. I posted photos on Instagram throughout the trip, not to make Derek jealous, not to prove anything to anyone, just to celebrate the beauty I was experiencing. But I noticed the comments. Friends I hadn't heard from in years reaching out. You look so happy. Absolutely glowing. This is inspiring. One comment came from someone unexpected, Amanda Cho. Beautiful photos. I'm glad you're doing well. I stared at it for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. I had nothing to say to her. By the time I returned from Iceland, I'd been gone from Derek's life for 6 months. Through mutual friends, I heard bits and pieces about what had happened to him. The relationship with Amanda, if you could call it that, had lasted less than 2 months after Santorini. According to sources, they'd fought constantly. Amanda told friends that Derek was controlling, jealous, impossible to please. She'd ended things right around the time our divorce was finalized. Derek was living in a small apartment in Fremont now, still working at the same agency, but passed over for a promotion he'd been counting on. Apparently, upper management had concerns about his judgment after the Santorini situation became office gossip. He'd tried to contact me a few times, emails that I deleted without reading, a voicemail I erased after the first few words. Once he showed up at the townhouse, but I didn't answer the door. Eventually, he stopped trying. I felt nothing about it, not satisfaction, not vindication, not even pity, just a complete absence of feeling, which, in its own way, was the best revenge. He'd become irrelevant to my life, a year. That's how long it had been since Derek drove away to the airport, leaving me behind for a trip that was supposed to be ours. 365 days that had completely transformed my life in ways I never could have imagined that awful Monday morning. I woke up early on the anniversary of that day, October 15th, and made myself coffee. The sunrise was just beginning, painting the lake outside my window in shades of pink and gold. I took my mug out to the small balcony I'd added to the townhouse, a renovation project I'd tackled with the money from my raise. Sitting there in the cool autumn air, I thought about everything that had happened. The pain of betrayal, the shock of discovering Derek's lies, the humiliation of seeing those Facebook photos, the fear of starting over, but also the strength I'd discovered in myself. The career success I'd achieved once I stopped holding myself back, the friendships I'd deepened and the new ones I'd formed, the joy of living life on my own terms. If someone had told me a year ago that Derek's betrayal would be the best thing that ever happened to me, I would have thought they were insane. But sitting there watching the sunrise alone, I understood it was true. The betrayal had forced me to see my marriage clearly, to recognize I'd been making myself smaller to accommodate someone who didn't appreciate me. It had pushed me out of my comfort zone, made me fight for myself in ways I'd never had to before. I'd discovered I was enough on my own, that I didn't need Derek or anyone else to complete me. I'd always been whole. I just hadn't realized it. My phone buzzed with a text from Harper. 1 year. "How are you feeling free?" I typed back. "Happy, grateful. You should be. Look at everything you've accomplished." She was right. In the past year, I'd gotten the promotion I deserved. I'd become financially independent. I'd travelled solo to Iceland and was already planning trips to New Zealand and Japan. I'd learned pottery, made new friends, created a home that felt entirely mine. I'd built a life I loved. Through the grapevine, I'd heard that Derek had tried reaching out to Amanda again a few months back, but she'd blocked him. He was dating someone new now, another woman from the agency. I hoped for her sake she knew what she was getting into. As for me, I wasn't dating anyone. Maybe someday I would be, but I was in no rush. I was enjoying this chapter of my life too much, the freedom to wake up and decide how to spend my day, without considering anyone else's needs or wants. I'd learned that being alone and being lonely are two entirely different things. I was alone by choice now, but I'd never felt less lonely. I had meaningful friendships, a career I was passionate about, hobbies that fulfilled me. My life was rich and full. The biggest lesson, though, was this: sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually a gift in disguise. Derek's betrayal had hurt more than anything I'd experienced, but it had also set me free from a relationship that was slowly suffocating who I really was. If he hadn't left me off that Santorini trip, I might still be in that marriage, still making myself small, still sacrificing my dreams for someone who didn't value them. I might never have discovered my own strength, my own resilience, my own capacity for joy. In a twisted way, I owed him a thank you. Not that I'd ever give him the satisfaction of saying it. The sun was fully up now, bathing everything in golden light. I finished my coffee and stood up, ready to start my day. I had a pottery class that evening, a hiking trip planned for the weekend, and a big presentation at work on Wednesday that I was excited about. Life was good, better than good. It was mine. As I walked back inside, I caught my reflection in the glass door. I looked different than I had a year ago, stronger, more confident, genuinely happy in a way that went deeper than surface level. Derek had taken away my dream vacation to Santorini, but in doing so, he'd given me something infinitely more valuable. He'd given me myself back, and I wouldn't trade that for anything, not even 10 perfect days in Greece. So here's what I want to know from all of you watching. Have you ever had something terrible happen that ended up being a blessing in disguise, a moment where everything fell apart, but somehow you ended up better for it? Drop your stories in the comments because I'd love to hear them. And if you found something meaningful in my story, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Share this with someone who might need to hear that sometimes the end of one chapter is really just the beginning of something better. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope wherever you are in your journey, you find the courage to choose yourself. You deserve a life that makes you genuinely happy, and sometimes that means walking away from what's comfortable to find what's true. Take care of yourselves, and remember that you're stronger than you think.